Krishna devotees, Sacitanaya Prabhu will be joining within a few minutes, few seconds maybe immediately. Please hold on.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare
Hare Krishna. Just a few seconds. He'll join any time now.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Ravilochan Prabhu. Okay. Hare Krishna. So Sacitanaya Prabhu, can you on the camera?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes. Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So 1 second, if you can speak once, you can just check the sound.
Hare Krishna. Am I audible?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes. Okay, are we ready to start?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Hare Krishna devotees, thank you all for joining Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya in the morning. So we have very fortunate to have His Grace Sacitanaya Prabhu today to enlighten us Srimad Bhagavatam 4th canto, 25th chapter, verse 56. Over to you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Just a minute. I will just open the file.
You will be sharing the verse, right, Prabhu?
If you can share, please, Prabhu.
1 second. You start, Prabhu. Meantime, I'll share.
Okay. A little slow. I am realizing now only. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyadesh Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठकी Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 25 and Text 56. एवं कर्मसु संसक्तः कामात्मा वंचितो बुधः महिषी यद्यधीहेत तदेवान्नवर्ततः एवं कर्मसु संसक्तः कामात्मा वंचितो बुधः महिषी यद्यधीहेत तदेवान्नवर्ततः. Synonyms: Evam, thus, karmasu, in fruitive activities, samsaktaha, being too much attached, kamatma, lusty, vanchitaha, cheated, abudaha, less intelligent, mahishi, the queen, yat, whatsoever, iheta, she would desire, tat, all of that, eva, certainly, anavartata, he followed. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Being thus entangled in different types of mental concoction and engaged in fruitive activities, King Puranjana came completely under the control of material intelligence and was thus cheated. Indeed, he was used to fulfill all the desires of his wife, the queen. Purport: when a living entity is in such bewilderment that he is under the control of his wife or material intelligence, he has to satisfy the intelligence of his so-called wife and act exactly according to her dictates. Various shastras advise that for material convenience, one should keep his wife always satisfied by giving her ornaments and by following her instructions. In this way, there will be no trouble in family life. Therefore, for one's own social benefit, one is advised to keep his wife satisfied. In this way, when one becomes the servant of his wife, he must act according to the desires of his wife. Thus, one becomes more and more entangled. In Bengal, it is said that if one becomes an obedient servant of his wife, he loses all reputation. However, the difficulty is that unless one becomes a most obedient servant of his wife, family life becomes disturbed. In the Western countries, this disturbance gives rise to the divorce law, and in Eastern countries like India, there is a separation. Now, this disturbance is confirmed by the new introduction of the divorce law in India. Within the heart, the mind is acting, thinking, feeling, and willing, and falling under the control of one's wife is the same as falling under the control of material intelligence. Thus, one begets children by his wife and becomes entangled in so many activities under the control of mental concoctions. Hare Krishna. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Tamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpati Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Ya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavranda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vacha Alam Pangam Langaite Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dirtaranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Mishram. Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to today's. I seek all your blessings so that I can, in the service, I can also realize and able to understand the purpose of Bhagavatam that Prabhupada has written, and also we can exchange that in our understandings while doing this class. Hare Krishna. So today's shloka is Canto 4, chapter 25 and text 56. So it's mentioned, Evam karmasu samsaktah kamatma vanchito buddha. Evam, thus, karmasu, in fruitive activities, samsaktah, being too much attached, kamatma, lusty, vanchitah, cheated, abuddha, less intelligent. So, one is when engaged in fruitive activities, comes under the control of material intelligence and is thus cheated. And here, this is the allegorical story of Puranjana, in which Puranjana himself is that supreme soul. I mean, supreme soul. It is the Jivatma, and the queen is supposed to be the mind. So it looks like the queen wants to actually serve. Queen and all her servants, they actually propose that we want to serve you, O my king, like that. But actually the thing is, it's a trap. They're not really serving as per the king wants them to be served. They are going to cheat in the name of serving the king. The king is going to get cheated. So that is the problem here. The issue is that king is actually thinking, he is a lord and somebody is going to actually serve, but that doesn't happen. He gets cheated. So he will come under the control of material intelligence. Here, the queen or the wife essentially means the material intelligence. So we have to understand that somebody instead of taking to the shelter of Lord, if he tries to take shelter, find shelter anywhere else in the name of pleasures, then he is definitely trapped. So I was listening to this to Prabhuji's lecture, in which he was mentioning about the how mind plays that trick. So it is said, he was mentioning about the famous Michael Jackson, who was actually wanting to live for very long. He wanted to live for very long. For what he wanted to live for very long? Basically, he wanted to live for very long for the satisfaction and for the pleasure of his senses. But on the contrary, when somebody engages too much in sense pleasure, his life reduces. Hmm? So it's like a catch 22. Whether he, for him, it's catch 22. But there is a way out. But he has to understand his original position. Then, uh, at last, somebody seeking pleasure from the senses is for some happiness. Hmm? Senses are not the real source of happiness, one should understand. But when one fails to do that, he he surrenders to the senses and starts satisfying them, thinking that they are the source of happiness. So for him, it was he wanted to live for long and have pleasure, but by having more pleasure, he is not going to. He may not be able to live for very long. So that was the contradiction that Prabhuji was presenting so nicely. So similarly, we should understand the senses are not the source of pleasure. The source of pleasure is Krishna himself. Unless someone serves Krishna, it is not possible uh, to seek pleasure. It is not there. And one who seeks pleasure from sense, it's all very temporary. And it's like, it's not even a drop in a big ocean. They get lost. It is not even realized, So compared to the pleasure that one gets from devotion service, it is even said that the pleasure that one gets in impersonal realization, when somebody is in impersonal realization, they are also spiritual beings. They are in spiritual bliss, but the bliss that they get is not even comparable to one drop of pleasure that one gets from the devotion service. So just imagine, if that is the case, what is the position of the material pleasure one gets? So it is hardly countable. It is hardly countable. And who does the game? Who does the play? The play is created by this mind. Mind is actually an impression of several activities that the jiva has involved into in the past many lives. So all those impressions, smaller, some impressions are very strong, some impressions may be very weak. So, but all these activities, whatever they are done, whatever interest that is shown, whatever sanskar of those activities has been, whatever motive of that activity has been, all that in a subtle form gets the impression in the mind. The mind is a place where all this is stored. So that is why it is very, very important to take care of the activities of the mind. So every time, Prabhupada mentions, mind is not supposed to be, mind should not be made befriended. Do not make any compromise or friendship with the mind, Prabhupada says in the lecture. So he also quotes Kapila Deva from Kapila Deva's verses. Na kuryat karichit sakhyam. Na kuryat karichit sakhyam. Karichit means anytime. Kechit means anyone. So karichit. Na kuryat karichit sakhyam manasi. Never ever befriend the mind. Always keep it subdue the mind. Always keep it under your control. Unless the mind is under control, it is very difficult. We can see if somebody's mind is not under control, her or his behavior will be very much irate behavior. So they are not dependable. we cannot say, we cannot trust them. They will behave in one way, but when least expected, they may behave in different way. They are not to be trusted. Very, very risky persons to deal with. So that is why it is only those persons who can control their mind. They can actually lead and, you know, uh, show anyone some path. So that is why education actually doesn't make any, doesn't give this kind of knowledge. They understand, they learn material subject matters, but when it comes to controlling the mind and how it should be done, how the restlessness of the mind should be taken care of, that they are not aware. So that is why most of the people may fail. They may be very big, scientists. They may be scholars, great scholars, but when the mind is not in control, they cannot be uh, entrusted with great responsibility. They may not do something which is dependable, so they are not interested the great responsibilities. But whereas if you see in devotional service, the first thing they say, Prabhupada mentions in his lectures, for a brahmachari, it is not only brahmachari in general. Brahmacharis, of course, grihasthas also undergo brahmacharya for several years before they get married. But even for them, Prabhupada mentions, it is not how much they read, it is not how much they get educated, it is not how much shastras they can remember. It is not the shastra, the scholarship of that brahmachari. It is how much sense control that brahmachari can uh, bring in, how much sense control he can adapt. That is what they are trained for. So they go to Guru's ashram not for they want to learn something. It is not for their benefit. They go to serve the Guru. So that is how Srila Prabhupada is mentioning in the lecture, that they go to serve the Guru and not for, and as a result of their staying with Guru, they learn several things. So that is how it is designed. So several yogis, when they follow austerities, they gradually develop this mystic powers, and also uh, and a lot of siddhis also they gather. But they did actually, that is not the ultimate goal of a sadhaka. What they aspire for is, they aspire for the devotional service. So many yogis, after some point, they looking at the siddhis and mystic powers they get lost. They get lost and they drop off from that effort towards attaining the Supreme Lord. Attaining the Supreme Lord means to satisfy him in a complete way, not partially satisfying him. So that is possible in devotional service. So these yogis, many times they drop off, and they don't go up to the devotional service. And devotional service is also not so cheap that anyone and everyone can get it. They have to prove themselves. They have to prove their loyalty, and they have to prove their chastity to Lord Krishna. Only then one can reach that uh, position. So, like for example, Vishwamitra had to struggle a lot after so many years of tapasya. Then he got distracted by Menaka. And then similarly, then further, Vishwamitra did more penances. He did more penances to ultimately get the association of Lord Ramchandra. It is said that Vishwamitra did not understand the personal aspect until when Lord Rama came. Then his life was totally changed. He did not know. He had done all sorts of um, usage of the mystic powers. He tried to send Trishanku, and then but still he wanted something. He wanted to gain lots of power, and it is Vishwamitra who gave those Bala and Atibala mantras to Rama and Lakshmana. But still, the devotional service he understood only when he came in contact with Lord Ramchandra. So, like Saubari Muni also, he lost. He was disturbed. So that's why that I mean, like this, many yogis actually they are not able to reach up to the devotional service so easily. But of course, they are on their endeavor is still there, and they are trying to control their mind basically. Hmm. So, and Supreme Lord also doesn't give bhakti so easily, so one has to control their mind. So like Hiranyakashipu, he had all the powers in hand, but then he still could not uh, achieve complete control. He was not able to control his own son. Huh? So that is because he was not he was not controlling his senses. He was not able to control his senses. Once the senses, mind, and are controlled, then the entire world is controlled. Otherwise, if even somebody controls the entire world, nothing is controlled actually. The real conquer is the conquer of the senses basically. So even Arjuna says, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati balavadridam. Tasyaham nigraham manye vayureva sudushkaram. So I can control the wind. Just imagine he can control the wind, but not the mind. How such a strong comparison it is that we can't imagine controlling air. But Arjuna is telling, I can control the air, wind, but not my turbulent mind. So but then how can he control? Then Krishna engages him in the devotion service. He wanted him to fight as a kshatriya. So because he did not want to originally fight, he wanted to fight. He did not want to fight, thinking that they are his relatives. So he did not want to fight. Then Krishna explained Arjuna and why he should fight, and why was this question first of all raised? Because Arjuna wanted to leave and take to begging, take to dhyana, and but Krishna says it won't be possible for you, because even if you go to beg for alms, or if you lead a mendicant life, you won't be able to control your anger, because your nature is to fight. You are a kshatriya. Your nature is to check the violence, and you are supposed to get angry and then check the violence. So that way you won't be able to do that. So for you, the best thing is you won't be able to control. So you better use your anger in the service of the Lord. So that was for Arjuna. But for others, for people of their people will take to their service according to their caliber and nature. So that is that is how Arjuna also says he cannot control the mind basically. So basically, if we see our human body is human body, or any body for that matter, it's like a chariot. Like the mind is the ropes of the chariot, and soul is the passenger, and the driver is the intelligence, and the senses are the horses. Now the soul identifies itself with the activities of the mind. Now the soul, if it is good for soul, if it is suffering, or if it is a pleasure, it is identified with the activities of the mind. Soul doesn't have any role to play. Na kartrutvam na karmani lokasya sujati prabhu. So soul as such Like as such, Puranjana doesn't have any role to play. He doesn't add any activity, nor he is responsible for the fruits of the action. So, because Puranjana is the Jivatma. So he doesn't have any, it doesn't produce any result also. But it closely identifies itself with the mind. So whatever the queen does, he was also doing. He was eating the way queen would eat. He would take rest when queen would take rest. So everything what the queen does, he was also doing. But that is not necessary, and that is not the right way. Um, it is not the cause. It is just the symptom that we are seeing. But that is wrong. But that is the wrong way of doing. Actually, the one to be followed is the soul. So should be in the servitorship of the Lord, and all other senses, including the mind, should follow in serving the Supreme Lord. So this understanding doesn't come to anybody normally, because they have been in this physical body in various different yonis, and because of that, and it is, we cannot count since when a jivatma has been following its mind, because even in every other yoni, if you see, there is no what do you call, the understanding of dharma, the understanding of the position of the Lord, the position of the Jivatma. There is no understanding in other yonis. Since this Jivatma, this human being, the human form of life, has been going through all these forms of yonis, or they have had so many different bodies. They have been following the same principle of just following the mind blindly. There is no question of asking what is dharma, and it is not possible for those other species. So when this human being before has been undergoing all this, has been in those bodies, now when he gets a human body also, he follows the same thing. He follows the mind blindly to satisfy his senses. Okay, but human form of life has got this special power, has got this special capability to understand his position, Lord's position, everything. But unless somebody opens his eyes, like Acharya, like like Acharya, like Srila Prabhupada, when unless somebody comes in contact with such acharyas, they cannot know. They just simply blindly follow their past behavior of following the mind to satisfy the senses. So now once bhakti, devotional service, is introduced, once the quest for understanding jiva's position, quest for understanding Lord's supremacy, quest for understanding how he is Anu and Lord is Vibhu. This aspect, when somebody this quest starts, then he starts asking question. Then he gets the answer, and then it's up to his will what he wants to do. So, but this capability is there in the human form of life. So, and so that is why it is very important that one follows the scriptures, one follows Acharya, and understand in totality, the entire science of the self-realization. How many in the cycles of birth, about the cycles of birth that a jiva goes through. So in theory, first one needs to understand. Only then he can start putting into application. So, and in all this process, if someone wants to control the mind and the senses, further all the senses, then one has to identify himself. One has to know what is his identity. One has to know what is his position with respect to Lord. Like I said, like if his position is Anu and Lord is Vibhu, to know that he has to realize that he has to realize his position. So this identity, when we say identity, we say somebody is a male, somebody is a female, and somebody thinks he's a officer of certain, he's a manager in certain office, and he's something in some other place. He's Prime Minister of India, Prime Minister of any other country. All that, these are all this is called this is identity. When as long as this identity, this is which is a not the correct identity of the jiva. When we see Jivatma's correct identity is that he is the servant of the Supreme Lord. So unless one fixes this identity problem, he will not be able to adjust the mind. As long as he will think he's just a male, he will try to look for a female. As long as one will think she's a female, she will try to look for a male. As long as one thinks he's a manager, he will try to boss over other his subordinates. And likewise, this misidentity creates a lot of problem. That is what actually gives the impetus to the mind to act further using his senses. But if the identity is fixed, then the mind can be controlled. If we know that we are the servant of the Supreme Lord, then we know what are we supposed to do, because there comes the set of rules, and that is the true identity. There can be many identities, and we are the servant of the Lord is also could be one of the identities, but that is the permanent and correct identity. So there is no changing that anytime in any form of life. So if one understands that, his activities become change. When the activities change, all his talks, behavior, his day-to-day activity, everything changes. So but that is the starting point. When then he starts rendering service, he starts to listen to Krishna Katha and association with devotees. Then he takes to Bhajana Kriya. So like that, he will go ahead. But in that also, the propensity to enjoy for pleasure. See, the Jivatma has been through different forms of species, but the propensity of the Jiva has been to take pleasure. So even when one becomes a devotee, there is a possibility that he is looking for a pleasure in the form of dancing. It's like maybe he's not dancing from the heart. He's feeling better, he's feeling good. But that is good, still good, because that is in the service of the Lord. But the true, it has to be the propensity of enjoyment has to go. If somebody is dancing only for the Lord, that propensity to enjoy, the tinge of that propensity might still be there, which will eventually will go off. So, but the propensity for that pleasure is still there. So, and to correct the identity, to correct the misidentity, or to remain secured in the correct identity that I'm the servant of the Supreme Lord, I'm the Dasa Dasanu Dasaha, in the sense not direct servant, servant of the servant of the servant. To be in that right kind of identity, one has to seek the mercy of the Lord. It is not easy to overcome the mind, because mind is very, very powerful, very strong. very strong. And it is said in the same shloka that Kapila Deva mentioned that we should not befriend the mind. He also further says in the same shloka that even Shiva was bewildered. Anyway, Prabhupada says that when Shiva was bewildered, what are we, like that? Prabhupada is mentioning, and is also mentioning that it might also be for it is also for to show the jivas that mind is very powerful. It is a pastime played by Lord Vishnu and Shiva. So if having said that, to keep ourselves maintained, in that correct identity, we might have to understand how much we are nothing in front of the Supreme Lord. We have to we have to clearly understand that. So, for example, when we are dependent on so many people, right, and so many things, and this is all not directly taken care by Lord Krishna, but through the agencies of Lord Krishna. For example, but sometimes we forget. Sometimes we take all these things for granted. For example, there is morning and there is night. In night, it is impossible to navigate. We cannot go anywhere. As soon as the sun starts setting, we have to be home. Otherwise, we are lost. So we are so dependent on the sun. First of all, that is so important. And likewise, we are dependent on so many things that we take those things for granted, basically. So the point here is we have to identify our anu position in front of the Supreme Lord. Only then, if we keep reminding those points again and again, only then we will feel that dinata. When we feel that, when we have that dinata, only then Lord's mercy will be there. And through that mercy only, we can actually control our mind and keep our real identity very stronger. And then the mind and other senses can be controlled. So, for example, so we are many times, we take for granted that, when we go out, when we go to temple also, we dress ourselves so nicely and go. But the fact behind all those, well dressed, decked up, the body, the fact behind that is that we every day have to clean ourselves. There are various different kinds of liquids that ooze out of our body. We have to clean ourselves. We have to every day, pass stool. We have to clean ourselves. So if we actually see our body, our body itself is such an ugly thing, but still we clean ourselves, nicely put on nice garments, and after that, we are very much proud that I am so and so, right? So if we realize every day that we have to clean ourselves, we have to, unless we clean ourselves, like our hairs are disheveled, nobody can come near us if for 1 or 2 days somebody has not taken bath. So I mean, doesn't have to do like that, but I'm saying our body is very ugly, and still we dress ourselves up to and go out and claim that I'm so and so and so great I am, all that. So if we have that real understanding, but Lord is not like that. Spirit soul is not supreme spirit soul is not like that. He's always Krishna, it's mentioned always. Aguru smell used to come from Krishna always, right? It doesn't matter where, at what time of the day he is. So it doesn't matter at all. For Lord, he's always fresh. He's always fresh. So when we understand our position, then we can remind ourselves of our position, and then that will give the right mentality and right identity. And but at the same time, we also should understand the position of the Lord. Dinata, for example, there is a tiger, there is a deer. Deer may think I can be subdued anytime by this tiger, but that doesn't mean that it is going to get the right understanding about the Lord. So every deer is not going to go and serve the Lord. Only the human form, they can understand that what is the position of the Lord. But of course, Lord's mercy is there on all the jivas. Definitely, there is no doubt about it. But human form of life, we can understand and try to keep ourselves in the very most humble position as possible. It is only for my purification. Definitely, devotees, no doubt, they know very well what is their position, and they are always aware of this. So that way, we can remind ourselves, and control of mind. If you see, there are like Lord Ramchandra, as an example. If you say, he had broken the bow that was put forth in front of him by Janaka Maharaj, as a token of uh, for getting Sita married to Lord Ram. If anyone who breaks it can will be given Sita's hand. So when Lord Ram, when everyone could not break the bow, and Lord Ram could break it, then immediately he did not go claiming that he wants to marry Lord Sita. He had a complete control on his mind. He had a complete control of his senses. And Dasharath Maharaj had already told Rama that you follow what Vishwamitra says. So he could have married then and there, but he said he wants to wait for Dasharatha to come and all the family, so that he wanted permission. He wanted permission from them, and then only he wanted to marry, not before that. So anyway, this question of this is only a pastime we should understand. This mind and all other senses and the influences of the senses, these are all material. Lord Ramchandra doesn't have to, these senses cannot even touch the Lord in any way, because Lord is completely spiritual in nature, but he is setting an example for others. Similarly, Krishna also set so many examples and controlling the mind, and similarly he has done like that also. But we should understand the material nature is under the influence, under the subjugation of Lord, not the other way around. Not even a tinge of material influence is there on the Supreme Lord. Even and also Namacharya Haridas Thakur, he had a complete control. He was untouched, by the influence of the prostitute who had approached Haridas Thakur, and he was always chanting. And because of that, even the prostitute also changed herself. She started chanting Lord's names by the influence of Namacharya. So that is the influence of the chanting of the holy name of the Lord on mind and the behavior of those under the influence of mind. So we one way say on one hand we say we should control the mind. Conversely, Prabhupada also mentions that it is possible to control the mind by chanting the holy names, engaging our mind in the completely in the service of the Lord. Kechit kevalaya bhaktya Vasudeva parayana agam dhunvanti karsnena niharam eva bhaskara. By simply kevalaya bhaktya, full focused bhakti, full focused devotional service, one can actually engage himself and clean himself of all the agham dhunvanti. So all kinds of sins he can get rid of by chanting the holy names of the Lord, by engaging himself in the devotional service. But one should understand that mind is very, very strong, and even Lord Shiva and other great yogis also have fallen prey to the mind. So, yes. And Prabhuji was explaining in the lecture I was hearing that mind basically magnifies things. He was quoting one example of a devotee or someone who has got associated with the temple. So he wanted to go on a yatra, but for some reason, for delay was not available. For some reason, they could not accommodate that devotee, that person. Then immediately he started telling that he would not attend, he would not come to temple anymore, he will stop chanting. All those things he kind of started telling, just because for some inconvenience, but for some reason, very valid reason, that they could not accompany him, that they could not accommodate him in the yatra. He started responding in this way. So Prabhuji was telling that mind basically, why he started telling like that, such a big thing for such small reasonable reasonable situation. He was replying like this because he was telling that mind basically magnifies everything. And we have seen, if anything goes wrong with somebody, he will start immediately telling, these all politics, I know this, people are like that only. These are all magnification. This mind basically magnifies all these things. And in Lord Brahma also mentions in Bhagavatam, anya prathartha grana nishinishayana nana manurata dhiya kshanabhagna nidra daivi hritartha rachana rishayopi deva yushmat prasanga vimukha iha sansaranti. So anya prathartha karana, in the morning time, they are acting by the influence of the karma, nishinishayana, and they get kshanabhagna nidra, very very less sleep. What is it called, that they don't get that sleep? A sleep issue will be there, right? That it is called something like okay, I don't remember that. I mean, they will have they will there is a problem for an individual to sleep, so that is called something, I don't remember that. So kshanabhagna nidra, nana manurata diya kshanabhagna nidra, in the sense they plan so much they are so engrossed in their plan. They make big plans. They want to connect the entire world. They want to come from America to India in half an hour or whatnot. They make big programs to connect, trains, the speed trains here, from connectivity from here to there. I mean, they may be, according in their calculation, those things are very important. We cannot deny. But these plans to get something done, to plan and thinking that, all these things, what they do will stay forever. This is all, a very tall claims. It is only for few years all these things going to be there. But the plans are too great, right? So because of making those kind of big plans, they are not getting proper sleep. They are always in that thought, how to, like how to get this working, how to make these material plans working successful, all that. Because of that, they get only kshanabhagna nidra. Daivi Hutartha Rachana Rishayopi Deva. So he may be a Devi Hutartha Rachana Rishayopi Deva. He may be a big rishi. He may be a demigod. But Yushmat Prasanga Vimukha Iha Sansaranti. If somebody has turned his face away from your from singing your glories, Yushmat Prasanga Vimukha. If somebody has turned his face from singing your glories, Iha Sansaranti, he will be rotating in the same material world again and again. He is going to be in this world only. And who caused all this to happen? It is the mind. Because as long as as long as Puranjana will act according to the wishes of the queen, or he will start identifying himself with the queen in doing activities, this is what will happen, and he will have to take birth again and again. So, but mind is the cause of one's existence in the material world. So, mind keeps one tied to the material world. So, but one has to understand this position and come out of it. And also similarly, Prabhuji was explaining that it imagines pleasure, but not the responsibility that comes with it. And also, if we have to put in our context, in the devotees context, when the first time I came, everybody were eating prasadam, they were all enjoying. So it was very nice. But we have to understand it is not completely. It is the attraction for the devotional service people everyone is doing. But if we actually see, devotees are not only taking pleasure in devotional service in the form of eating prasadam or dancing and everything, kirtan. Not only just from outside, they are also taking pleasure in serving at the back end. They are also doing a lot of sadhana, and they seek pleasure in that. Slowly, they are improving right from the day one. Who are in anybody's case, it may be like they are improving from day one. They are going from step to step, from so that way they are also putting a lot of austerity. They are putting a lot of austerity to get that true happiness, not only from outside, from inside also. So, but when somebody sees for the first time, he gets attracted. But then when there is a seva, he may think, for the newcomer, he may think that seva means no, seva, no, not seva, but let me enjoy here. So that he imagines that pleasure, he likes that pleasure that he is getting. But in devotional service, we have to understand it is also the pleasure that is there in serving. So slowly with association, that will also change for the person who is newly joining. He will understand there is also pleasure in serving. So then it neglects the responsibility, and then it denies the reality. That is why these movie songs we see, they show different shoots from one country, another country, but that they are nowhere close to the realities. They show movies of superheroes. They are superheroes only fiction. This is not reality at all. Like so many superheroes are there, but actual superhero is Hanumanji, who has actually served Lord Ram, and he has done in the service of the Lord so many things, right? He has been instrumental in every place, responsible for locating Sita Mai, and then he brought Sanjeevani Bhuti, and he was responsible for not responsible. He was instrumental in connecting Lord Ram with Bharata in so many places. So he is the true hero actually. And so, but mind doesn't want to agree or understand the reality. So like this. So in Bhajahure Mana song, we can see that uh, how the Govindadasa Govindadasa Abhilashare Shravana Kirtana Smarana Vandana Pada Sevana Dasare Pujana Sakhijana Atma Nivedana Govindadasa Abhilashare. So he is training the mind. He is telling the mind, this is what you have been, but you better you involve yourself in Shravana Kirtana Smarana Vandana Pada Sevana Dasare. All these 9 limbs of bhakti you start performing. So, and this is what I'm seeking for. Like that, he's training his own mind, and of course for others also. So in Nectar of Instruction, Rupa Goswami Prabhupada mentions Tannama Rupa Charitadi Sukirtananus Smrutyoho Kramena Rasamanasi Niyojya Tishtan Vrije Tadanuragi Janan Anugami Kalam Nayed Akhilam Ityupadesha Saram. So the essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, nicely chanting and remembering Lord's divine name, transcendental form, qualities, eternal pastimes, thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. This is the way to engage one's mind and tongue. So these are very important. Tongue is also very important sense organ, which has to be utilized appropriately, and followed by which other sense organs will get adjusted accordingly. In this way, in this way, one should reside in Vrija and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. So, guidance of devotees is very important. When mind is not able to, when mind is on its own, it creates a lot of havoc. So, it is better to follow the guidance of devotees and follow in their footsteps. So, it is very important from this aspect that one should engage, one should follow the devotees in engaging his mind. So that is how one should engage the mind. Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada is mentioning. So similarly, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra one can keep on reciting, so that whenever mind diverts, then he can come back to his original position. Okay, and then there are engage the mind and tongue. There are several. Prabhupada is mentioning that one should engage in hearing to Krishna Katha. So there are several stages of Krishna Katha. Prabhupada mentions Shravana Dasa. Then he's first, his stage of first he starts to hear. Then Varnadasa. Varnadasa is he finds some taste in he becomes attached. Then Smaranavastha. Then recollection, absorption, meditation, and constant remembrance and trance are 5 items of progressive Krishna Smarana. So this way he is little more interested, and he becomes, that stage is called Smaranavastha. Then Anusmriti, when remembrance is uninterrupted, it becomes concentrated and is called Anusmriti. Then Samadhi, an uninterrupted and unceasing Anusmriti, one enters the stage of Samadhi, a spiritual trance. Then Sampati Dasa, after Smarana Dasa or Samadhi has fully developed, the soul comes to understand his original position, constitution position. At the time, he can perfectly and clearly understand his eternal relationship with Krishna. That is Sampatti Dasa, the perfection of life. So that way, Krishna Katha and chanting of the glories of chanting of the holy names of the Lord will keep the mind in the right position, and also the senses. And to distribute this knowledge and to engage everyone, Prabhupada has traveled all over the world many times. And Janasya Krishnad Vimukhasya Devat Janasya Krishnad Vimukhasya Devat Adharmashilasya Sudukhitasya Anugrahayena Charantinunam Bhutani Bhavyani Janardanasya. So Prabhupada has gone to all over the places to give this mercy to all those who are Adharmashila. Like Dharmashila is Adharmashila. So who are not able to follow dharma in right perspective, who are very morose, and to give them just this anugraha, Srila Prabhupada has traveled and given this mercy to everyone, so that everyone can control their mind and be in the servitorship of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Hare Krishna, Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you very much for very nice class. I would like to unmute devotees line. So if you have any questions, I think we have just 5 minutes of time. So if you have any questions, we can ask. We can take 1 or 2 questions. Devotees can unmute the line, please. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, there are a couple of comments in the chat window. I'll just read it out.
Okay.
Saraswati Mataji has mentioned Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji, thanks for nice class. And Sacitanaya Gaun Prabhu has mentioned Srila Prabhupada was superhero like Hanuman, and his divine grace changed the thousands of Ravanas and Kumbhakarnas to devotees of Lord Rama. Then
True.
Davilochana Gaurang Prabhu has mentioned, thank you for wonderful class. Prabhuji, thank you for very nice class, Prabhuji, especially
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
for emphasizing the importance of controlling and engaging the mind, which is very powerful. So, thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. There are no questions. We can end the class with Vaishnava Pranam, Prabhuji. Vancha Kalpata Rubjasya Kripa Sindhu Jayavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you for your time. Hare Krishna devotees, from this Thursday, we will have association of His Holiness Bhakti Vijnanam Narasimha Swami Maharaj, who is coming from Mayapur. So he will be in our temple for 4 days. Please wait for the announcement in our WhatsApp congregation group. Thank you. Hare Krishna. I will end the Zoom session now.